Welcome back to Let's Raj With That. I'm Jill. In this episode, we're going to make something nice and simple that is very, very useful, and that's called chuck stops. Chuck stops come in various forms, complicated, super expensive, etc. But that's not what I want to do today. I want to make something real simple for people that are just trying to get started but really need those things. So some of them are like this. If you've got a 3D printer, you can make them. Very easy to make. But I'm going to make something that looks like this, right? Really simple. Usually they come in generic sizes of 3 sizes: 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and 1 inch. And that's the height of it. Whole idea behind having chuck stops is that you can put them in, set your piece in, and you've got, the ability to handle things without needing 4 hands. And that's kind of nice. Plus, they're usually nice and flat, should ensure squareness of your part. The process is going to be a 6-step process, very simple, dirt cheap. So let's have a look at that. For this project, you're going to need some flat stock. I suggest you get some cold roll steel. This is 1/8 of an inch, and it's very precise when it comes to its thickness and width. So less machining involved, and it's not very expensive either. The stuff that I'm using is 1018 cold roll steel. So I've got some 1/2 inch here from which I made this. I've got some 3/4 inch, and then we're gonna make some 1 inch stock out of this little slightly wider stuff. So let's go through the steps together. One, I've got a 6-jaw chuck, and so what I've decided to do is cut these pieces at 2.5 inches in length. Easy enough, use whatever method you want. Second part of the process is quite simple again. I just took a caliper, scribed a line down the middle, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to a belt sander, but you can do this with a grinder, whatever you want, and we're going to grind a 30-degree bevel so that these 3 pieces can meet at 120 degrees, and we can put a tack and weld to hold them together. So let's grind our pieces, and we'll get the process started. Okay, so now for step number 2, which is grind our 30-degree angles. Here's what I've done. I'm at my belt sander, and there's one of these here. I've set it to 30 degrees. This doesn't have to be super precise, okay? 30 degrees, rough is good. I've clamped this part so that I can get my piece close enough here and not get in trouble with that. So now, let's grind away. Now your pieces are going to get a little hot, so it's a good idea to wear some gloves while you're doing that. I'm not going to talk during this because it's pretty noisy. Alright, so let's get to it. Just like that, we are done. So let me show you. Okay, so I've stacked my flat bar together, whatever distance you choose to put your magnets at, doesn't matter. I've got a 3/16 end mill, and I need to carve out a 6mm wide and 6mm deep slot for the magnets. That'll be the last bit. Down to 6.01 millimeters. There we go. That's it. Sorry about my big fat fingers here. Okay. I think that's going to be enough. Let's get this out of here. Clean things up, go to the bench. Okay, I'm at the bench. And I've cleaned up these 3 parts. And I've set out 3 neodymium magnets here. So let's just put them on here just for a tryout. So that's going to be nice, actually. Now remember, we've already made the angles on the centers of our parts. So we're going to get like 120 degrees right off the bat, as soon as we join them like that. And that's really cool. So there's a couple of benefits of having made those slots right away, is that this will hold, like this is pretty steady right now, and I'll be able to tack weld these in place. All right, so number 3 was milling for the magnets. Number 4 is weld and grind the weld. So now that this is in place like this, with its own magnets being held, I'll bring my welder, tack this in place, grind the welds. If you're welding on your workbench or whatever surface and you simply don't want spatter to stick everywhere, use some non-stick cooking spray. It's cheap. You don't have to pay like $50 a can for the specialized stuff, and it leaves a beautiful popcorn smell. And that's it. I'll finish the welding. It'll all be done. All right, a little touch of grinding on each side. Don't go nuts here. That's it. That's all you need. Let me show you. Okay. There. So I'll do that on each corner. And remember, we're not building a skyscraper. A couple tacks of welding will do just fine. Now in step 5, you want to make sure that the surface is flat, right? And I understand not everyone has a surface grinder. Heck, a year and a half ago I didn't even know what it was. But I do, so I'm going to use mine to make this surface flat. If you do not, say you got a belt sander, or even just some sandpaper. You could put a piece of sandpaper flat on a very flat surface, turn it around, and just work it down until every surface is actually touching, and being abraded by the sandpaper. So that's as simple as it can be. It doesn't have to be a complex process. All right. So both of the surfaces need to be flat. This one is, you can tell, like just the way it skates. But if you flip it up the other side, it actually pivots. and that's not a desirable trait, because when I put it like this on my lathe, on my chuck face, whatever I put here is going to be higher than, say, whatever be here, and that's not a good feature. So proceed with that. I'm going to do a little touch up on my surface grinder. Alright, so I've just surface ground both sides of this fixture, and it does a wonderful job. I mean, it brings everything down within less than 1 or 2/10 of a thousandth of an inch. So the parallel surface is going to be great, although it's fur lathe, so it's not overly necessary. Okay? Now, before we proceed with anything else, even a surface grinder leaves some burrs, so it's a good idea to give it just a light filing on the edges. Okay, you don't want to proceed any further without doing that. This is mild steel, so just a little file will do the trick just fine. These are magnificent little files, by the way. If you don't have a set of these, you should get one. Alright, so I'm going to do the side 2 here. It's just so that when we put it down, you know, there's nothing causing issues. And we're about to clean this up here, because we're going into the final step of our build, step number 6, which is basically to glue or epoxy some magnets on here. So what I'm going to do now is get some paper towel, some acetone, clean this very nicely, set a little batch of JB Weld. This is the professional grade stuff. Epoxy works very well. 5 minutes, you're done. So let me set up for that and clean this up and set up the magnets for installation. I've cleaned my parts, and now it's time to mix up some of this epoxy. If you haven't got any of these little container lids and whatnot, this is a great time to order some food from your favorite Asian restaurant, and they'll send you little containers with soy sauce in it. I like the soy sauce, and I like the containers because they're great in the shop. So let's mix this up. Equal part epoxy and hardener. This stuff is really wonderful. I've obviously mixed way too much, but that's okay, right? Because more is better. All right. So it's almost ready. It's good. It's good to mix this up really, really well, thoroughly, as they say. Okay, so I'm going to put a little dab on the magnets. Not worried about my bench. I can clean this up later. All right. Now, I'm going to bring this up here and set it on. Hopefully not make too big of a mess. Yep, it's going to be messy, but that's okay. Now, I want to center these magnets if possible and apply a little bit on here as well. Now, if this is not as sturdy as I want, I can always flip it upside down later and apply some more. But it'll probably be sufficient. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to wait for this to dry, and once that is dry, I think we'll be ready to put them to the test. Okay, so here I am at the lathe, and our chuck stop is completed. So let's put it in there. Nice positive grip on the chuck. So let's get a piece, say 1/2 inch stock. Put the chuck key in there. Tighten this up. It self-centers itself. And this is just an example. So now you've got one hand on the chuck key, one hand on your piece of material. No problem at all. That goes in really nicely. This will not come out of there and hurt you. That's the beauty of this. So there you have it, folks. Your very first homemade chuck stop. So if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Shoot me a comment if you can. Love to hear from you. Take care. Bye-bye.